Ladies and gentlemen, we're here.
I'm part of the Kliq, isn't everybody?
Yes! 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 I got an idea, yeah. Beat up John Cena!
Give me a hell yeah!
Oh, a little bit of the bubbly.
Too sweet! Here goes the mother! This is where the power lies!
I am the man.
We need if you can survive!
It's showtime, folks!
The following episode is scheduled for one fall, and it is for your listening pleasure. This is In The Kliq.
What's up, everybody? Baby Huey here, and joining me once again is my good brother from the Bulletcast, Philip. How's it going, man?
My name's not Philip. My name is Carl Winslow from Family Matters, apparently. I know people won't see this, but ladies and gentlemen, on the Bulletcast Sunday, because we know we have to do a podcast for War Games, you will see a different looking Philip. But I'm doing great, man. Life is good, man. New jobs are in the works.
Yes.
Uploaded some interviews, with GSW. Shaul Guerrero. I interviewed a Guerrero.
I know, man. Congrats.
I feel great. Yeah. And then I did I had my 200th episode.
I know. We'll get all to that in 1 second. But yeah, honestly, I am thinking I want to get video done very soon. So I got finally a little updated graphic thingamajig. So a little tease. I think finally get some t-shirts going in the next week or two. We'll see how that goes. If we get some free time going. But yeah, I want to get video going because based on your current look, yes, for all you fans of TGIF on ABC back in the day, yeah, Philip, you look like the dad from Family Matters. I'm sorry. Or the cop from Die Hard. That's how I like to think of him as well. But one of these, we gotta start doing videos so people can see what I see. That's why I want the Kliqsters to see all that.
Yes, we got Carl Winslow and Walter here, guys. Yep, that's what's happening.
I know. But please, tonight, you and I we're gonna talk some AEW Dynamite, but we're not alone tonight. We got a third man, brother. Do you wanna introduce who's joining us tonight?
Oh, okay, can I do it like I do it on the Bulletcast?
Yeah, might as well. Come on.
Oh, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, you know I never do it alone. He's my tag team partner, the Jimmy to my J, the Tully to my Arm, the Stevie Ray to my Booker T. He's the host of the award-winning Under the Radar, host and creator of Curveballs and Chair Shots, the first ever and 9-time Bulletcast champion, the Canadian Destroyer, BT Brandon 10 Guma. Brandon, my co-host, you're on the ITK. How you feel, brother?
Yeah, finally.
Yay! About damn time he stopped big leaguing us, guys.
I know it's almost I kind of almost didn't want to join because it's just kind of like it's been a running bit that I'm not on the show. I mean, hell, Smokey was on the show before I was. The damn smoke detector gets on the show before I do, but it's okay. I'm not bitter or anything like that.
I mean, Smokey died, and he was like, "All right, I'll do it."
I know, but that's the thing, man. I was like, yeah, when I heard the sad news that Smokey passed away, I was like, man, like I think for Philip and I, we need like a third voice, to chime in. And yeah, I mean, next best option was Brandon. So no, but Brandon, thank you so much for joining us on the Kliq. I know it's been long overdue. I respect everything that you and Philip do together on the Bulletcast. So thank you for making the time here on In The Kliq. So just once again, remind everyone, please subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Also, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, intthekliq@gmail.com. And if you are done listening to this episode, go back listen to my interview with Montez Ford, one half of the WWE SmackDown Tag Team Champions, Street Profits. A lot of fun talking to Montez Ford and tribute to the troops and a bunch of other stuff in that little short window I had with him. But Brandon, yeah, you must be like, please tell me kind of your emotions finally making an appearance on In The Kliq here.
I mean, it's all just kind of a blur right now because I was sitting here playing some PlayStation and I just get a text message like, hey, you want to be on In The Kliq just right now? I was like, sure, why not? So
yes, I apologize for being kind of last minute. It was my brother who's in the room right now. We were watching a boxing fight on, and we were doing some other things, and it was a busy day, but nonetheless, I was like, Philip hit me up and it's like, let's record. I'm like, yeah, we should, because a lot of stuff happened this week in the wrestling world. We'll talk AEW Dynamite. Winter is coming. So much to talk about there. But first thing first, some sad news, unfortunately, in the pro wrestling world. It was announced that the passing of Pat Patterson, WWE Hall of Famer, legend, just one of the greatest minds in pro wrestling. Phil, how old was he? Is he 79? Is that how old he was?
Yeah, he was 79, and I mean, I did a tribute on the Bulletcast, and more information has come out. Like, he had bladder cancer, he beat it, and then they found like a tumor on him, and he had like dementia pretty bad. And Sylvain Grenier, he was a tag champion in WWE like back in the mid 2000s. He was with Le Renaissance. Yeah, he was like a close friend of Pat's, and he saw him. He lost 60 pounds, and I think yesterday he was supposed to have a check up to see what they were kind of going to do with the tumor, and then he passed away a couple of days before. But I mean, it's sad, man. It really is. I mean, the first Intercontinental Champion, as we all know, he has a special place in Bay Area wrestling fans' hearts, because he was out here with Big Time Wrestling. Roy Shire wrestled in the Cow Palace. APW brought him back. So it's just sad. And I mean, I think his bigger legacy is the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing. Just so I watched SmackDown, obviously, last night, and amazing tribute. Like, the whole show was pretty much dedicated to Pat Patterson. All the wrestlers came out on stage at the beginning of the show. They did a tribute to him. They had people commenting about him throughout the night. That video package was amazing. The tribute that had pretty much him singing along to Frank Sinatra's My Way, and just the highlights and all the wrestlers that knew him, that crossed paths with him. I mean, it's decades in the business of just the amount of people he's dealt with. I mean, my brother and I, we were just kind of geeking out just some of the old stuff from like the old WrestleManias in the 80s and stuff, and him in the ring as a ref with Piper, Mr. T, Hogan, and Tommy, was it Paul Orndorff? Mr. Wonderful. He's not paying attention. She's not listening right now. But with Mr. T and all that. So, it was just amazing how much he's done for the pro wrestling business. Unfortunately, even, as old as I am, I didn't see him wrestle. I know him more as one of Vince McMahon's stooges. And he's one of my all-time favorite wrestlers is Stone Cold Steve Austin. And so he played a big part in that whole storyline of Stone Cold versus, Mr. McMahon. And so, him and Gerald Briscoe just back and forth with him. It was just so much fun seeing that in the 90s during the Attitude Era and stuff. So, but yeah, Philip, as you mentioned, he's also known for, inventing the Royal Rumble and how he changed up a little bit, just the Battle Royal, and kind of made it a little more different as far as, start out with two wrestlers, and then, every couple minutes, another person comes running in. So it's just pretty, legendary. It's one of the big 4 pay-per-views now, still to this day, and so much fun. And if I remember, wasn't the Royal Rumble, wasn't that kind of created as some counter programming at the time? Or I'm getting my dates mixed up, maybe without Survivor Series, but nonetheless, it's still very sad. I mean, from what people said, he's one of the greatest wrestling minds as far as creating like finishes. And Gerald Briscoe had a really good touching video. I saw them tweet out, WWE tweeted out, and I guess it's almost like like a coaching tree, like in football, like, Bill Walsh, for me as like a Niner fan, Bill Walsh, and he has this coaching tree of everyone that worked for him. And then those guys carried on his vision with all their respective jobs. And so, Briscoe brought up a good point. Pat Patterson, all the wrestlers that he worked with and trained, they're all like spreading his knowledge. And you see that today with Triple H and Shawn Michaels with NXT and all that good stuff. So, but Brandon, for you, kind of some of your thoughts on just the passing Pat Patterson and what kind of you remember him for, and anything that stands out for you. Yeah,
I think Pat Patterson honestly has like maybe the greatest wrestling just career of all time, just because he spans so many decades, so many generations. Back in the 60s and 70s here in the Bay Area with Ray Stevens as his tag team partner, he was regarded as, one of the best technical wrestlers of his kind. And then, as you guys talked about, it kind of moved into the 80s, being Vince McMahon's right-hand man, and then being the Stooges, an on-air character, but also behind the scenes working with a lot of finishes, and then working with some of the younger talent like down at NXT. I mean, he wasn't, like Dusty was in NXT, but I still, people still talk about how his influence was so influential, for the past, whatever it's been, like 60 years. So, I mean, if Pat Patterson wasn't around to be with Vince, I think maybe the WWF as a whole would be a lot different than what we see today.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
Absolutely, man. And I was reading some more. So he was 79. For 62 years, he was involved in wrestling.
Whoa.
Really? That's crazy, And the tribute on SmackDown, they brought out like the first Intercontinental title. That was kind of cool. But I mean, I think this one really has to hurt for Vince, because like Patterson was there when Vince first takes over, and he's been there like from then to now. I mean, guys have passed away and come and gone and stuff, but Patterson was always there. So this one has to really hurt for him.
Yeah, he came out at the beginning of the show, which at this point in his life, he's pretty much retired the Mr. McMahon character. And so unless it's like a big deal, like, Undertaker's retirement ceremony at Survivor Series a couple of weeks ago, we don't see Vince on TV anymore. So when he came out, obviously this is a very important situation for him, and he definitely wants to publicly express his condolences and show up on TV during this tribute. So that was very cool to see Vince McMahon out there. And yeah, seeing the IC title, the very first one, out on SmackDown, that was cool. Just the look of it. I mean, to me, it looks very medieval as far as like the shape of it and like the pointers, and I don't know, like the title design was very interesting for it.
Well, the tournament in where he won it was in a medieval castle. You know that, right?
Oh, really? In Brazil?
Yes.
Rio de Janeiro?
Yes, Rio de Janeiro. Yes, absolutely.
I wish they would put like photos or videos on the WWE Network so we can really relive that moment, that monumental moment when he won the title for the very first time.
It's like I told you off air, all the photos and videos were destroyed in the transport back to the States. So
it was really humid down in Brazil, so it just the photos and everything, it just didn't come out correctly. So
damn it,
it's a shame.
I know.
So that's why they started keeping everything.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, if anything, that's a good reason, or a good thing that happened from the positive of that tournament was, they properly started documenting everything after the fact. So all that good stuff. But I know for the three of us, we were talking a little bit off the air. We all saw Pat Patterson in person a couple years ago when APW put on a show at the Cow Palace, and he did an appearance there, a little autograph signing. I think he even spoke to some of the wrestlers privately as well, or had some like school, or I don't know what it's called, felt like a training thing. Or spoke to them privately, like a seminar or something like that.
Marcus Mack uploaded that video. I saw that. And then you talked to John LaRocca, and he told a little behind the scenes story about like trying to get Pat out to the ring. That was cool.
Yes.
But I mean, for me, man, like I've been able to like see like wrestlers at like Raw and like Flair, see like Hogan come out and stuff. But seeing like a legend up close like that, I'm like, yo, that guy is the first Intercontinental Champion. That's cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that little moments like that, I truly do cherish. So, I mean, R.I.P. Pat, one of the best to ever do it. He invented the match that leads us on to the road to WrestleMania.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing too is cool that night at the Cow Palace was, he had that great spot in the ring with was it Dylan Drake, if I remember correctly, and Kevin Sullivan, I think, was also out there that night doing some stuff. So it was just cool. I mean, for us to see one of the guys who really put wrestling on the map in the Bay Area, Northern California, San Francisco, at the Cow Palace, so to come out, so to get to see him in person. So that was cool. So, R.I.P. Pat Patterson. Thank you for all your contributions to pro wrestling, and it's going to live on forever. And even Gerald Briscoe said, like, all his matches, the photos, videos, and the mindset, the knowledge he passed on will live on forever. So, if you have a chance, watch that video from Gerald Briscoe. It's very, very touchy in many ways. All right, let's jump on over to Wednesday night, AEW Dynamite. Their big, almost like a pay-per-view level type of show. Winter is Coming was this past week, and apparently they got the rights to that because Winter's Coming, obviously play off Game of Thrones and HBO, but since it's all part of like the whole family tree, the Turner Network stuff. So that's how AEW, Tony Khan said they got the rights to use the name for the show. So Philip, like we always do, we'll start out big, kind of give our initial thoughts, and then we'll break down the card. So yeah, kind of your major takeaways from this week's episode.
Oh, well, this was better than Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr., I'll say that.
Oh, you didn't enjoy that fight? That was pretty good. It was a good match. Tyson looked great.
Tyson did,
Or Nate Robinson.
Dude, Nate Robinson.
Hey, he's still asleep. He took NyQuil, you feel me? I don't know. Maybe because Roy Jones is from Pensacola and I used to live there and I have a gripe at that place. Anyway, I thought this was cool. I didn't see the battle royale for the Dynamite ring, which I still think is so stupid.
You didn't miss that much.
I caught like the tail end Jericho and Kazarian. That's where I come on. But I thought all in all it was a good show. We got a major surprise, which I texted you about because I know. Yeah. I popped. I did. And then, we have the ending, which I have questions about.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's a lot to break down, so that we'll go through the whole card and give our thoughts about everything. And I think probably have a good discussion about what can come after this and the partnership that we saw develop at the very end. But Brandon, for yourself as well, kind of any just major takeaways, your thoughts about this show overall?
I thought it was a really good show. I mean, this was one of the marquee Dynamites. They kept saying it's the biggest Dynamite of all time. And I agree. I thought it was a really good show. I, as a professional wrestling enthusiast, watched the entire show. And I thought everything that, for the most part, that they put on the show delivered. The main event I thought was really good. And obviously the big moment that we're going to talk about definitely was a surprise. Because let's be honest, we, as people who are kind of in the pro wrestling atmosphere, universe. Oh God, I said the word universe. I should get kicked off.
Fan base.
So, I mean, they were to keep it secret. I didn't really know anything about it. I think that that's something that we don't really get too much in pro wrestling. So that was very fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, by the way, to defend Philip, I think the reason why he tuned in so late because he was just busy shaving off his beard so he can get a role for the prequel for Family Matters.
Dude, no, you're exactly right. I was shaving, and I look at the clock, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then so I shave, I see the end of the thing, and then I leave my apartment, and I come back and catch the end of Jericho. So, yeah, that's what happened.
There you go. Philip, as you just mentioned, so the show kicked off with the Dynamite Diamond Battle Royal. A little bit of a mouthful there. So it's pretty much a bunch of the who's who currently. We see a lot on the AEW roster. Your stereotypical battle royal here, and especially AEW, it's very chaotic. All of them in the ring doing their thing. For me personally, I did enjoy seeing Heyman, Adam Page kind of go up against members of the New Order. New Order? The Dark Order.
The New Dark Order.
I was going to say the NWO. Come out. Sorry. I'm going back to the 90s based on other guys who showed up that night. But anyway, Dark Order, I enjoyed that kind of back and forth. Matt Hardy kind of working a little heelish a little bit as far as, his interaction with Hangman Adam Page as well. I definitely really enjoyed towards the end Jungle Boy and Sammy Guevara. They're back and forth out on the out part of the ring right there. I mean, God, they're like working on a little, narrow the outer part of the ring, and like the balance that they kept and not falling over. That was pretty awesome to see. But yeah, Philip, any highlights for you from this battle royal that stood out?
I kept seeing the clip of Wardlow and Miro facing off against each other.
Yeah.
I mean, Miro, at least he has a Twitch channel, right? Yeah. That's all I got to say.
I was going to say, I mean, for me also, yeah, it was also a case of MJF playing, the chicken-ass heel, standing in the corner, and Wardlow just standing in front of him, protecting him. I enjoyed finally Miro dominate in an AEW ring as far as just knocking a bunch of guys out of the ring, just looking strong, and hopefully, maybe cut ties from Kip Sabian pretty soon, like wrap up that wedding storyline, partnership, whatever, the best man thing, get that over with and start booking him as a monster. But Brandon, any thoughts on this battle royal for yourself?
I think AEW overall has been doing pretty good battle royals. They do maybe a little bit, too many of them, but I think they tell good mini stories throughout the entire show. I like how they had Miro actually look an actual monster because he's been too much of a comedy act, I feel like, these past few weeks. And I think Adam Page, the way he's been portrayed kind of like throughout the entire year, I've been kind of questionable because he's shown signs of being like a top guy, and then they kind of pulled it back with the tag team with Kenny, and then now he's kind of the sad drunk cowboy again, and he's wondering if he's going to join the Dark Order or not, and then he ultimately gets eliminated by Matt Hardy, which I don't know what the hell he's doing. I mean, maybe if he's actually going to stay one character for once, I don't care if it's a babyface or a heel, that's fine. But I think Orange Cassidy and MJF being the two guys at the end winning and then facing off next week, it makes sense. But I do think it is a little complicated to understand, like battle royals. You're not like, you don't actually win it. You're just supposed to, be the last two standing, and then you have another match to actually win the ring. Yeah,
this whole battle royal for them, it's a little bit different as far as it kind of finish at times feels a little underwhelming because there's not one. The way this one wraps up is the final two people, and then that stop the match, that's done with, and then they fight the following week for the ring. So I mean, in that sense, I'm like, there's not that big dramatic one last elimination when there's one solo person in the ring standing, and this one is, there's two guys. All right, congrats. All right, I'll see you next week. So and for me, that's kind of a little bit underwhelming in that sense. But the other thing too with this battle royal, which a lot of battle royals, there's always that one person who's like looks like they're eliminated, or everyone thought they were gone, but they just go under the ropes and they're just hanging out, killing time, and then they make the big sneak in at the end. In this case, MJF Wardlow thought they had the thing won, but then Orange Cassidy comes back. Good little back and forth, eliminates Wardlow, and now, as you just mentioned, it's going to be Orange Cassidy and MJF. And I don't know. I mean, like, for me, I'm a little burnt out on Orange Cassidy because I think his whole gimmick works better in front of an audience. His kind of comedic type of persona, you need, like, I think a fan base to react. And so the fact that he's been really pushed a lot this whole summer and fall on us, I'm curious if the crowd would still really enjoy that with him. So, like you said, I'm a little burnt out from him, but I am now expecting him to probably beat MJF, and then maybe that's kind of a new gimmick. Maybe he puts his hands in his pocket with the ring on. I don't know. I'm just, a little done with that. Philip, I know you were going to add something as well.
What is the purpose of this ring? I don't get it. Like, what?
$50,000. I don't know why they just don't go pawn it or something, but
okay. I mean, like, you don't get a title shot. Like, what? So who cares?
It's for MJF to walk around and just kiss it for the next year. That's all it was.
Bro,
and use it occasionally.
Just because Cody kissed a Ring of Honor, we have to do that. People will remember. No, I mean, select few like me who pay attention, but other than that, like, who cares?
Yeah,
who really cares?
And that's the thing. It's like, the Battle Royal doesn't end in a more exciting manner. It's just the final two. And like, okay, good. We'll see you later. And then, the ring, what does it kind of do with it? Yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. A good little opener. Get the crowd, the 1,000 people that were in attendance that night. And for us watching at home, get them amped up. Down in Florida. Good old Florida for them. All right, next up, the next match of the night was, Philip, our drinking buddy, our best friend, the champion, aka Demo God, Chris Jericho, taking on Frankie Kazarian of SCU, which first time they were facing each other. So I guess that's kind of cool for maybe at this point, Chris Jericho's career. He wants to maybe take on guys that are in the AEW roster that he's never faced before. So maybe kind of like the last little bit of a bucket list here. The match was solid. I mean, come on. The two professionals, I mean, almost over 50 years of probably experience between the two of them combined. So, they're going to have a solid match together. The finish, though, it was okay. So, Jericho ultimately wins. For me, and then there's the whole hoopla with MJF and all the members of Inner Circle in the ring, and Sammy Guevara's pissed off at MJF still, and pretty much said the ultimatum of either we're gonna make up next week or the Inner Circle is done. For me, I thought maybe from more of a dramatic standpoint and get more tension build, one of them, MJF or Sammy Guevara, maybe because of them bickering on the outside, cost Chris Jericho the match, and therefore motivate him saying, "You guys, cut this out. You cost me a match here. Now we're going to settle it." But no, he still ultimately gets the win. And then this stuff all breaks out afterwards. So I just thought for a dramatic purpose, it would have been make more sense if Jericho would have lost. But then again, this would be his third major loss on TV. He lost to Orange Cassidy, he lost to MJF ultimately, which got him in the Inner Circle. So maybe just Jericho didn't want to, lose a third time in a row. But I don't know, Philip, your thoughts on this whole match and how it played out?
Well, Jericho didn't want to do the job, brother. No, I mean, it's cool, two guys who've never faced off against each other. I mean, Kazarian's always been good, in TNA people like Joe, Styles, and Daniels, like, nah, Kazarian's been that dude. And so, I mean, I'm sure they gelled well together. And the whole with the Inner Circle thing, I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, they haven't really done much. Like, let's be real here. I love Chris. I love Jericho. Love MJF and all those guys. They haven't done anything. Lost the Stadium Stampede. They were in like a 10-man tag match. They lost that. When they're all together, they don't win. Adding MJF and Wardlow, it doesn't look like it's done any good for them. They went to Vegas. Yay, hooray. What are they doing? Tony Khan talked about he's going to add trios titles to the company, which, okay, sure. To make these guys feel important, Santana, Ortiz, and I don't know, Hager, they need to be the trios champions, your first trios champions. Make these guys feel important.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. As far as when Jericho was champion and he had his crew around him, they really felt ultimately very special, the top faction in AEW. Now, the way things are kind of going, Jericho, as I mentioned, kind of was a little bit on a losing streak. They're kind of losing a little bit of momentum. So, yeah, you got to do something to spark things. I know they've had, the various funny angles, with Bischoff and, the Vegas stuff and the dancing dinner where routine that was, a late dinner debonair. Is that what it's called, Philip? Is that the
yes,
right name?
Yes, that happened.
So, I mean, yeah, they got to kind of spark something, especially Santana Ortiz. They were supposed to be the big free agent tag team last year that everyone wanted when they left Impact. They haven't done anything. They haven't won the titles. You kind of like, where's this big special tag team that everyone's talking about? I mean, they've had some good matches. The great, street fight against the Best Friends, but they lost that. So I'm with you. It's like, okay, the faction, I think, is kind of losing some speed and a little bit momentum as far as what's their purpose, what's the goals, what's next for them to kind of keep them relevant and dominating. So I don't know. I'm pretty curious what's next for them. Brandon, kind of, your thoughts on, the whole Inner Circle turmoil and just the matchup with Jericho and Frankie Kazarian here.
Yeah, I haven't been the biggest fan of what the Inner Circle's been doing recently. I didn't like what Jericho and MJF, the dinner debonair, whatever they've been doing. And then last week, Jericho cut the promo saying they're going to be serious, to go back to the regular Inner Circle and beat people up. And I was like, okay, cool. We're going to get back on track. And then they go right back to the inner turmoil. And I was like, why didn't you at least, wait it out a little bit more, have them be okay with each other for like a month and then maybe tease it a little bit and then have kind of the big blow up. I don't think anything too much is going to happen next week. I think they're all going to kiss and make up and maybe we're going to have a bigger blow up later on down the line. But back to the Jericho Kazarian match. I know Jericho's your guys' boy, but he is looking a little slow, looking a little old, and I think it definitely does show against guys like Kazarian and Daniels where they're around the same age as him and they move a lot better than he does. And I'm not saying Jericho needs to hang him up anytime soon, but I think it's time to temper expectations of the type of matches Jericho can have right now.
I mean, it's like you said, he has like 15 years of WWE house matches on his bump card.
Those those bumps add up.
Hey man, they probably are.
Dude,
Shout out
Matt
to those
Hardy.
TNA house shows. All
Dude,
5 of them.
Matt Hardy, it's so painful for me to watch Matt Hardy just walk to the ring or walk anywhere. He just looks so stiff, and I know his whole spine was fusing with his
tailbone, yeah. But then he got better. He busted out a moonsault this year. He couldn't do that a year ago.
But and then he bounced his head off the concrete.
Yeah.
Yes. God, that's what loosened it up a little bit. Oh my God, it's bad. But
those WWE house shows, they destroy the bump cards, man.
I know, man. It definitely adds up. So next after that, we have a little backstage segment with the Young Bucks promoting their new book. I believe, Brandon, you have a copy of it, right? Killing the Business. Is that what it's called?
I barely even read books. The only books I've read have been like Daniel Bryan and AJ. So I haven't read any things on this. I don't know if it's going to be, all religious and stuff, but maybe we'll get a review on the Bulletcast one day.
That'd be great. Actually, I got the
6 months from now because I'm a slow reader.
Me too, man. I take doing increments on the toilet. That's I'll probably save it for, but What, Phil? Come on, everyone does it. Why are you making that face? Come on.
That's what TikTok is for, right?
So, that's right. Dude, that's why I do all my likes on Instagram. So Phil, if you ever notice like a wave of likes, yeah, I'm just killing time on the toilets. Especially like 5:45 in the morning when I'm at work, just FYI, sorry.
Guys, you heard that if Huey ever spams your Instagram with likes, he's thinking of you while he's taking a nice poop.
There you go. Thank you. So Young Bucks are back there being interviewed by Alex Marvez. And all of a sudden we see the Acclaim come out, and I don't know too much about the Acclaim. I know they're kind of a younger tag team, right? They've been on AEW Dark.
Is that the two black guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they came out and they were just kind of mocking them in the book and stuff. And then TH2 also came out and beat them up, and it's going to lead to a match to them. So it's cool. I mean, the card was already stacked. There was no room for a Young Bucks match. So I'm glad they just had a presence on the show, backstage segment. So good for them showing off the tag title. So, all right, cool. It's going to lead to a match, I think, next week. So, next up was the women's match for the night. We saw Dr. Britt Baker taking on Layla Hirsch. And, this match, I know Layla Hirsch is kind of being booked like, this badass, tough wrestler. Cool. But man, I was watching this and I don't think Britt Baker nailed any of her punches. I know they're work punches and all, but I was watching and I felt like she wasn't making contact, and the camera kept cutting away right before the punch was almost looked like it was going to nail it. Just the camera work was a little off to me. So I don't know. Britt Baker's still a little rusty, but ever since she's been back from her injury, I just really feel like she's lost a step a little bit. I don't know, but Brandon, yeah, your thoughts how this match played out?
I thought the match was kind of hit and miss. I thought it had its moments, but I do agree with you. I think Britt Baker at times, I remember there was a little thrust kick that she hit, and she gently put her foot right on the side of her face, and the camera was right up on it. You could just see it. So it was bad, but luckily Thunder Rosa came out at the end, and we're going to get to that feud, and hopefully Thunder Rosa. I think if Britt Baker, I think I talk about this on the show sometimes with, like Triple H or John Cena. Britt Baker, I think, could be led to a good match, but she's not going to be pulling people up. So I think Thunder Rosa would be a good partner for her. Yeah, no, that's a very good point. Thunder Rosa could play the role of Bret Hart was in the first half of the 90s of just helping all the other guys look good in the ring. So
we don't want to do that. When Bret was helping out guys, the business was in the toilet.
Oh, come on, dude. Well, that was 95. That was the whole new generation year.
I guess with the match, I looked up Layla Hirsch. She's been doing this for 3 years. Okay. She's still new. I think people expect amateur wrestlers to be automatically successful like Kurt was and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Britt, it was not looking pretty.
Dude,
Britt just needs to hit her little curb stomp thing and just put him in the lockjaw. That needs to be her matches.
I don't know. Maybe because people figure she's, going out with Adam Cole, that she's going to be this amazing performer in the ring herself. And dude, it was just not a very smooth match. I thought it was a little chaotic.
Bella's married to Daniel Bryan.
That explains it all.
It's not a knock on Brie. Love her. Love Brie. Love Brie. But,
Yeah. I heard you say, well, so... And then, as you said, Thunder Rosa comes out, starts beating her up, so it's a continuation of that storyline. So, once again, someone from another promotion is getting more screen time than the actual AEW Women's Champion, which is, a big thing I've been kind of frustrated with. I don't know, Billy Corgan, that was part of the deal with Tony Khan. It's okay, if you want the NWA title feature on your show, you got to give us more screen time than your own champion. But, it was just a little chaotic brawl. The refs come out, start pulling apart. I think when people yelling, Jerry, it's supposed to be a moment from Jerry Springer. But it is what it is.
It's because Jerry Lynn was on screen. That's why.
Oh, sorry.
Everyone was just getting, preoccupied with Jerry Lynn.
See, he gets more attention. Yeah, he gets more attention in the ring than she does, than the girls in the ring. But anyway, it is what it is. All right. Let's get, Britt Baker, in the ring with Thunder Rosa, and hopefully be a lot better for that. So, next up was, a match I was looking forward to. So TNT champion Darby Allin teaming up with Cody Rhodes and, taking on 2/3 of Team Taz, which is Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs. I still think he should be just called Powerhouse Will Hobbs. I don't know why I need to drop the Will part. It just sounds weird. Powerhouse Hobbs. I mean, I like
WWE does it. It means it's a good idea.
No, if he was in WWE, he'd just be Hobbs.
Yeah.
I like when JR calls him Willie Hobbs. I like that.
Yeah. So I mean, this match, a pretty good match. I think Will Hobbs dominated. I love just his whole new heel persona out of him. He's very much being a monster in the ring. I love, his singlet, very much like what Taz used to wear in ECW. Just tearing up. He was throwing Darby Allin. Darby Allin, who's the one man in this ring who's a champion, was getting his ass kicked the most, being thrown around, all that stuff. But yeah, I love Will Hobbs' performance in this match. Brandon, any other things from this match that stood out for you?
No, watching it live, I did think the match might have been a little bit disappointing because I thought with these four guys, I was expecting a little bit more. But with what happened after the fact, it definitely did make up for it. And Ricky Starks losing yet again, I think it's showing in the Team Taz. He's the designated job guy, which kind of sucks because I think he has a lot of good upside. But I think at the moment, that's just what he's going to be. Yeah,
it's a little bit of a tough situation because, okay, Will Hobbs just joined the team. He's got kind of this new persona going. He can't eat a pin right now. You don't want to lose that momentum. Yeah, I was like, okay, maybe you have Brian Cage in there, but he's the current FTW champion. So unfortunately, out of the three, Ricky Starks is going to be the one to have to eat this pin here. Philip, how about you? What are your thoughts on this whole match as a whole?
About Ricky Starks eating pins, I'm really not a fan of it. Like, I think that guy, he can be a star. Like, he's been eating all these losses to Darby Allin. I think he beats Darby Allin for the TNT title. Like, that's what I want to see. And then Team Taz can be like, yo, we got 2 championships. We're cutting. Oh, man, dude. I just thought about, they could go for the heavyweight, but other plans are being done for that. So it's just kind of, up in the air. But all in all, I expected more fire from like the babyface side from Cody, really, to be like, come on, let's get this done. But all in all, they do win and things happen.
Yeah, so we'll get into that 1 second. So I do want to point out, this is something I didn't notice, but our boy John LaRocca, who's from the Fight Game podcast, former APW booker, head booker, I heard his review, and he brought up a good point. Cody, theoretically put over Darby Allin, letting him win, become TNT champion, handed him the belt at the pay-per-view and stuff at Full Gear. But in this match, a little detail that I didn't notice at first, Cody hit his finisher on Ricky Starks and then made the tag to Darby Allin, and Darby Allin did the coffin drop. So the point being, Cody finished the match and then let Darby Allin come in, hit his move to get the pin. So in a way, Cody is the one who saved the day, won the match for the team theoretically, or at least finalized it, and then Darby just finished it. So a little interesting observation there moving forward is, Cody, even though Darby is the champion, Cody is still kind of getting the glory of the match. It was like he's the reason they actually won. So that's a little detail just to keep track of.
And I think it also helps Ricky a little bit more because he ate 2 finishers back to back. I know, but with AEW, they always want to have clean finishes, which I am all for. WWE has too many distraction finishes. So if you're going to have a clean finish, Cody, they're going to save it. As you said, Hobbs is new and Darby ate a pin a few weeks ago. So I think Ricky definitely was the guy here. And eating two finishers back to back protects him a tad. But
going with the whole Darby thing, I think it's kind of it's like when CM Punk was world champion in 2008. Like, hey, man, you're the champ, but you're not really the star. We have Batista and John Cena, or in Darby's case, Cody's here and Hangman can float in this area, and now Hobbs and Cage. You know what I mean? Like, you have the title, you have it, but like you're not really the talk of the town.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I wonder what Darby Allin's really his ceiling is with AEW. It's like, sure, he is a champion, but is he really? Are people tuning in really to see him? Out of everyone else on the roster? I mean, I don't have to want to be brutally honest like that, but yeah, I don't know if he's gonna be the one that's gonna be like a big star maker that brings people in every week to watch that show.
No, I listened to Cheap Heat with Peter Rosenberg, and he and his buddy they talk about we watch AEW for guys like Darby Allin. So he's drawing some steam from those type of peoples, the WWE loyalists, but are like casual AEW watchers.
Yeah.
So
okay,
just book them a little better.
Yeah, totally. And look, come on, they're barely a year old as far as Dynamite's existence goes. So I mean, hopefully 5-10 years from now, he'll be, maybe the king of AEW for all we know. But the major talk or takeaway from this match is what happened afterwards. So, as you mentioned, Darby Allin gets the pin here, and Team Taz comes out, starts beating the crap out of them. Brian Cage comes out, so they're just outnumbering them. They even attack poor Arn Anderson here. I was like, come on, man, leave Arn Anderson alone.
Never trust Arn Anderson.
I know, good point, yes. Dustin comes running out, trying to make the save, help his brother out. Dustin, I think, is the king of like the run-ins, of trying to help save him, which is interesting. It's like, the previous segment, when people were getting beat up and attacked, the refs came out and pulled them apart. But in this situation, Team Taz is beating up Team Cody. Well, I guess we'll call him that. No refs were coming out to help break this up, man. I was like, what's the deal here? But then everything goes dark. Lights go out, completely black inside Daly's place. And then we see like this video package, and like winter is coming, snow, and we see like a black crow, and then the music starts playing, and then all of a sudden, bam, says Sting right there on the monitor on the big screen. I immediately pop. Philip, please, you were texting right away.
Bro, I was legit shocked. You know what I mean? I'm like, they got me. They did. Because you heard rumors or whatever, but like, I don't think so, man. Because like, bro, he's 61. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't think so at all. But then they got me. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. I've heard people be like, the way it was done was terrible and this and that. I'm like, I mean, yeah, sure. He just kind of like made his lap around the ring, like, hey, yo, I'm here, in full get up and gimmick, and you can buy a shirt at AEWshop.com. Yeah, cheap plug. And so we just kind of made his loop. Was like, yeah, I'm here. So my whole question. I mean, we're gonna hear from him, and kind of the way they sold it too was a little underwhelming. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like on Shivani's part, I love
Shivani was having damn near a heart attack.
He made that moment in some way.
It's not like Shivani in 95 or 89, bro. I'm sorry.
I loved how Shivani played it. I mean, it's not WWE commentators where they're robots and it's Michael Cole doing fake stuttering like, it's Sting. Oh my God.
Who is that?
Whoa. Don't ever diss Michael Cole Michael
Cole was pretty good in the UK tournament. I will give him that.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, my whole point is like, what's going to be his role? Because I mean, like he took a bad bump with Seth a couple of years ago. And I mean, he's aged a lot more since then. But then again, DDP's 64, and he had like a tag match last year on Dynamite. Yeah. So, I mean, there are a couple things you can do here if he's going to have matches. He could be in a tag, sure, and obviously you go the cinematic route.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah, totally. So, for me, okay, when that moment happened, he comes out.
Not to cut you off, they're going to have a crow's nest match.
Wow.
Boom. Okay, there you go.
So, what I was going to say was, he comes out, Tony Schiavone goes, it's Sting! Sting! For the first time since 2001 on TNT, Sting! And then, Jim Ross says 18 years. I'm like, 18? You mean 19? Come on, Jim. Your math is off by a little bit. Come on.
Maybe Sting's like B-list movie or TV show he did was on TNT and reruns in 2002.
That's right. It's a good point. So then, for me, I know, Philip, you were texting me in the moment. I got super excited. I popped. I was like, oh my God. I mean, there was rumors that he was going to come maybe at Full Gear, do something with Darby Allin. That's obviously the connection there. Full Gear came and went. Nothing happened. I think a lot of people were like, oh, all right. I guess it's not going to happen. But we also heard, a couple months ago, they took all his merch off WWEshop.com, and like supposedly his contract was up. And so like, okay. That's where people start speaking like, oh, what's he going to do? Is he going to still try to do something with AEW or somewhere else? And so but like all that conversation died down. So I think for me, for example, I kind of just forgot about it, or as far as him, front of my mind, as far as like, what's he going to do next? So I was legit shocked and surprised. And apparently, reports came out after that, it was kept a secret. Only like a handful of people knew that he was coming, and even people in attendance or staff, I should say, of AEW were surprised and marking out themselves. So that was cool to hear that, and that wrestling could still have those moments. And I'm so happy for that, because I get kind of a little tired of like a lot of these dirt sheet websites who report all the stuff and kind of ruin the element of surprise. I mean, I keep track of all that stuff because I feel like kind of we need to for what we do with our respective podcasts and all that stuff. But it kind of helps. It ruins though my viewing experience. And so I was so happy that this was just a big surprise. And so for me, and I even tweeted it right after, it took me back to being a kid again, watching, seeing Sting come out on TNT on a wrestling show with Shivani doing the commentary. It took me back to watching Nitro, WCW Monday Night Nitro back in 1997, 98. And so I got like goosebumps and just the emotions again that I haven't felt since I was a kid at the time. So if anything, wrestling, what I love is about those special moments that makes you just fall in love with the sport all over again. Forget about all the BS and toxic fan base and Twitter beef and all that stuff. Just to focus on the entertainment aspect of it. I love that. It was so perfect. Seeing Sting, TNT, Shivani, all that together, all that combined was such a fun, special moment. I loved it. But yeah, Brandon, how about yourself? Just kind of seeing Sting come out and make a big surprise.
Yeah, as the middle child here, I just missed WCW in the Attitude Era, so I don't have like the link to Sting like Baby Huey does. But my boy Dominic, who is the same age as me, he loves Sting back because of his TNA run. But for me personally, I'm not like the biggest Sting guy in the world. But when he came out, I thought it was a moment. And I think because of the pandemic with not a lot of fans there, wrestling is kind of trying to not do too much right now. But I think at the end, this honestly might have been the biggest moment of 2020 for me in terms of just like a moment. I thought it was great. You can nitpick, what exactly Sting was doing coming out there. What was going to happen if they didn't attack Team Cody? Was he just going to show up and be like, hey guys, I'm with AEW now? But just throwing all that stuff out the window, I thought it was fantastic. And it just goes back to what as much as I love Sting is pretty good and not doing a whole lot. And that's what he did here. And it was fantastic.
Huey, can I let you in on a secret?
What's that?
So Brandon met Sting last year, right? He's known about this for a whole year. Really? So he's downplaying it? He knew this was happening.
Yeah, I met him at a StarCast in Vegas last year, and I asked him, Sting, you're going to show up to AEW? And he was like, yeah, brother, winter is coming, all right? I didn't know what that meant, but it's all making sense now.
Dude, you knew all along, man.
Like, how was winter coming? It's Memorial Day, Sting. What are you talking about?
In Vegas, come on.
Hey, on a serious note, Brandon, how was he? Was he cool?
I mean, it was kind of one of those like morning meet and greets. So and Sting was full gimmick as well. So he probably had to get up really early. And I didn't hear this, but Dominic met him, and I guess he might have been a little grumpy and might have cursed and like said something about like a pen being lost or something. So
oh no,
Sting might have been a little grumpy in the morning, kind of like Jim Ross was as well. But Jim Ross is always grumpy. He's a grumpy cat.
Well, I know Jim Ross was great with me. I said you're the voice of my childhood. He's like, appreciate you, bud. I'm like, thanks. That's what I needed. I needed a bud from good old JR.
Did he take the hat off, put it on? You said, here you go, boy.
No, I tried to put on King's crown, and he was like, don't do that. I'm like, yes, sir.
He probably didn't like me all too much because I brought the WWE Encyclopedia, and I perfectly had it planned out to where Jerry was and where Jim Ross's page was. And I was trying to do it myself, but no, one of the workers was trying to do it, and he was fumbling around, and Jim Ross was a little grumpy, and he was making like a little comment here and there. I was like, yeah, I'm sorry. My bad.
It's all good, man. I'm sure it's fine. If you talk to him again, he'd be super cool.
He doesn't hate me. He hates the worker.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The worker.
Not me.
Bad work rate in wrestling is never a good thing. But like I said, I love this moment. It was just super exciting, just happy. And then, like, when the dust settled. Okay, so a couple things. Philip, I don't know about you, but there was a press release within like 30 seconds after he came out, being sent out, signed a multi-year deal with AEW. Now, as far as the extent of that's yet to be seen. Is he going to wrestle? Is it going to be like an Undertaker type of situation? Maybe wrestles once a year. Is he going to be some sort of maybe authority figure? Is he going to maybe do a lot of tag matches, or as you said, cinematic matches? That could work. I mean, a mentor for Darby Allin. I mean, that's yet to be seen. So I'm sure they can figure it out. But so he comes to the actual ring, clears house, or I mean, they all left. I love what he did there as far as he, stood and looked in Arn Anderson in the face, and their history. Sting took on the Four Horsemen, NWA, WCW. Love that connection there. It's like, for me, I saw that on Nitro all the time growing up. I was like, oh my God, Arn, Sting in the ring looking at each other, stare down. Goes over to Dustin. Dustin's laying on his back, looking up. I mean, their history too, WCW, but obviously his dad, Dusty, and Sting, just making that connection as well. Just the generations of wrestlers here. Goes over to Cody, stares at Cody. And we know Cody, he's always said his all-time favorite wrestler was Sting growing up. So for Cody, like deep down, I know he's EVP of AEW and all that stuff, but to be able to share a ring with Sting and have that moment, I'm sure deep down Cody as a fan loved that. And then he goes over to Darby Allin, stares him down, and I love he's like looking at one side of his face, sees the paint, the other side just regular skin. So I thought that was kind of cool. It was like staring it down, and I like how Darby, he's like the young one in the ring, obviously the rookie, if you want to call it that. He was like staring back, like getting kind of mean face right back at him. So I wonder if that's going to be something right with the first maybe program or storyline for Sting coming out of here. He had the new shirt on, set a world record for fastest t-shirts being sold on ProWrestlingTees.com. So I'm kind of tempted to get that shirt. I don't have a Sting shirt. I never had one. So I missed out back in the day of getting WCW related shirts. So I should play catch up now and get one of those. But it was cool. It was very cool to see him in the ring.
Next year for Halloween, let's all be an incarnation of Sting. You could be the blonde one. Brandon could be the TNA Sting, and I'll be the Wolfpack Sting.
Okay, but which TNA Sting? Like the Joker version, or
Brandon could be Joker. He has a little bit of Joker in him. I know.
Or I'll be Jeff Hardy, and I'll just have some drinks and try to wrestle a match against you and just fall over.
Whoa, we took a dark turn.
The ultimate nitpick I would like to say on the Sting matter is I wish the iconic picture that we have right now of Darby and Sting is I wish it was face paint Darby and Sting Darby. I think that would have looked so much better. But nonetheless, it was still a great moment.
Yeah, Darby, he should have been on the other corner, so a bit better on the hard cam. Good point. I didn't think about that. It's very true. Good point. So he has the bat. He did the whoa, hands in the face. Cool. He did everything we love. So I want to ask you guys this. As much as I love that moment, and after the dust settled, they moved on. I saw everyone's reaction, super happy, super pumped. But as you guys just said, he's 61 years old. Comes out to AEW. How is this different? And I noticed this based on the meme that was going around. WWE, they've brought back a bunch of legends. Most recently, like Goldberg again. People crap on that, but yet Sting comes out to AEW. Everyone loves it. So do you think there's just an automatic WWE bias and just hate on everything they do? But even though AEW does the exact same thing, that's cool, but not WWE. So I don't know. Philip, what are you thinking about that?
They're not going to put the title on him. That's the biggest thing. Goldberg came back, jobbed out Kevin Owens, won the Universal title. And I don't give a damn about the Universal title. And then he jobbed. We're not supposed to talk about this, but he beat the Fiend. The Fiend shouldn't have been beaten.
Mm-hmm.
And he took the Universal title. That's why people have a gripe with Goldberg. Mm-hmm. Now Taker's a legendary character. We're not really. He hasn't had a title in 10 years. We're not tripping. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really the only guy that's come back where people have kind of had a gripe with. Batista came back and worked with Hunter, and he's been out the door. Angle retired. I think that's really it.
Sean Kane overseas in Saudi Arabia.
That never happened.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Wow, come on.
I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, I mean, with AEW, they like Jake, he just cuts promos. That's all he does. Arn, he'll come in, drop a spine buster, which still looks pretty nice, by the way, and he'll throw a couple fists. He's not having matches. Yeah. That's okay. They've been able to use wrestlers in a positive light that are of the golden era.
Yeah. Well, I will say this. With Goldberg, yes, this most recent run, I could see where a lot of people were unhappy based on, he beat the Fiend. he didn't job out or well, no, he did lose to Braun, the Universal, but he did win the Universal Championship. So I get all that where people are upset. I will admit, remember a few years ago when he made his original return and beat Brock Lesnar, everyone was super happy for that. If I remember correctly, I know it's been a couple years, but at least that moment, everyone was happy to see him make his return then. So I'll separate the two. I think a lot of people were focusing on this most recent run. It's like, well, no, but remember a couple years ago, everyone was super happy to see Goldberg back and take down the beast, Brock Lesnar. So,
well, that's two part-timers.
Yeah.
And plus the match was like 1 minute and 30 seconds.
So you didn't overstay its welcome. All right. I can take that. But anyway, I that's what I'm just kind of thinking. It's like, I think people get too caught up in some of that stuff. And I mean, that's a bigger question we can maybe say for another time is there's not as many new stars now being created. They always got to go back to the well and get these legends to come back out. And, it's not going to last forever. So I don't know, Brandon, your kind of thoughts of, is there like a hypocrisy amongst fans versus AEW and WWE if they do the exact same thing, but people just hate on WWE versus AEW does the same thing, but it's the cool thing to cheer for?
I don't think it's WWE bias or AEW bias, just because WWE, as you said, has been doing this like ever since the Attitude Era. It's always been like, those are the real stars. The Rock comes back, Goldberg and, Taker, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, all these people come back and they're bigger stars and they're treated better than the everyday talent. Mm-hmm. So AEW, they've only been around a year, and Sting is really the only, like, the first guy. And besides, like what Philip said, Arn Anderson, Jake the Snake, those are all just veteran Taz. They're all mentors and managers. They're not out there. They're not putting the title on them. Sting is not wrestling Kenny Omega and winning the championship at, Revolution in a couple months. That's not happening. And I think Sting, maybe he's going to have a match, but I think for the most part, he's going to just kind of be a presence, cut a promo, hit some people in the head with the bat every now and then, chill out in the rafters with Darby Allin or on the opposite side of the rafters with Darby Allin. So, I'm not expecting too much from Sting in terms of like in-ring work, but I think he will be kind of a presence on Dynamite a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I'm hoping for too. I know he has a neck issue, the spinal toast, or God, I'm mispronouncing. I'm not a doctor, but it's the same one I think that Edge had. I think Sheamus even has a little bout of it right now as well.
Him and Austin, yeah.
So for Sting, I know he has held off from getting that surgery. If he was to have that surgery, his career will be completely done. So that's why he still hasn't had it yet. Even at 61, he's been putting it off. So with that being said, anything he does in the ring, I just hope, please, they're going to be super safe with him. You don't want to have another Seth Rollins type of situation there. So, like I said, overall, I still enjoyed the moment, but I took a step back and be like, okay, now the dust is settled. There's people on both sides. They love it. Some people hate it or being critical of it. It's like, oh, you guys hate when WWE does this. And so that's why I just thought about all that stuff. So I just wanted to ask you guys' viewpoint about that. So nonetheless, still looking forward to see what the next is for Sting up on AEW. All right. So, and listen, that's the other thing too, based on what happened in the main event, any other night, that would have been the number one story everyone was talking about, but yet it was still overshadowed just a little bit based what happened, in the main event. So finally, the match that we've been waiting for, Jon Moxley defending the AEW World Championship against number one contender Kenny Omega. A match that I think started like at the 20 mark, if I remember correctly. I looked over because
it was like 6:25.
Yeah, they said it was supposed to be a 60-minute bout, and TNT allowed them to have a run or overtime on that. So I was like, oh wow, okay. So I looked over and I saw, it was still early in the second hour of AEW Dynamite. I was like, oh wow, they're probably going to go for a long time here. So, this match, I think we should maybe break it up in two parts. The match itself and then what happened afterwards. So we'll talk about what happened afterwards and maybe what the domino effects is going to be because of that. For right now, let's talk about the match here. So Brandon, what was your kind of just initial thoughts about how the match played out and just, finally for the, seeing, God, it's been a year since they last fought each other at Full Gear. So kind of your thoughts on the Moxley versus Kenny Omega match.
I very much enjoyed the match. I thought, as you said, with them saying it's a 60-minute match, and if it goes over, we'll stick along with it. So it did, because I think for a lot of times with television matches, you kind of look, and with 5 minutes to go, the finish is coming. But I think they just threw that little Easter egg out there that it could go overtime, and they didn't use it here, but maybe in another title match somewhere down the line they'll use it. And I thought it was really good up until they did the heater spot where they did, Kenny gets whatever the DDT into the heaters, and he's too hurt to keep going, even though this is kind of a blood feud, and they were hurt a lot more earlier on in the match. And so I thought the work itself was really good. The last 5 minutes was all right. I mean, the not distraction finish, but the whole thing with Don Callis, I mean, that's fine, mainly just because AEW doesn't do it all that often, and it leads to something. I think when WWE does it on the second match on Raw, that doesn't mean anything in 10 minutes. That's a fact. It doesn't mean anything. So when they do it in AEW, Don Callis and Kenny Omega are going to be a tandem. It meant something. And they're not going to do a finish like that all the time. So that's why, as much as I kind of harp on WWE doing it all the time, AEW doesn't do it all the time. So it's not AEW and WWE bios. It's two completely different things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really glad you brought that up. Philip, how about yourself? You're thinking how this match played out here?
I mean, it was decent. It was decent. Brandon knows I've never been the biggest fan of Kenneth Omega.
He's Canadian.
I mean, I don't have to like them all. Yeah, I mean, the heater spot, I'm like, oh, okay. And then Don Callis comes over. I'm like, huh, all right, which I think they should do a better job, because I've heard people be like, yo, who is that guy? And like, oh, he works for Impact. Impact, what is that? Like, dude, TNA. You're like, oh, yeah. Yo, that's still around yet, so I think they should have done a better job of doing that. They could have been like, and they could have promoted him throughout the night. Like, Don Callis will be back from Impact Wrestling, vice president, just kind of get some umph on that. But I thought all in all the match was fine. I mean, do you want to jump into kind of the finish now?
Yeah, well, so the match I thought was kind of like in three parts. As far as the beginning was a little slow, as far as they're kind of feeling each other out. They were on the ground a little bit, over each other. I thought, oh, they're trying to stay warm. It must be really cold out there, just like kind of really, on each other a lot. And that's the other thing too, is I saw on Twitter people were reporting it was like 40 something degrees, even in Florida, at nighttime. So that was something to keep in mind. Just like, man, it's like really cold out there, and they're trying to do their thing. And I was kind of worried, like, are they gonna be a little stiff or whatnot? And so, and I'll get into that in a second, which I wish they would have, mentioned that more often. So they were kind of feeling each other out. And so a couple things here I wanted to mention that I heard John LaRocca brought up on his podcast that I wanted to get you guys' feedback from. So he brought up a good point. The match started and they do a lockup. And this is supposed to be, tension, a blood feud that's been going. The bell starts. You would think they would just immediately start trying to beat the crap out of each other. Instead, they go more traditional lockup and, dance around for a few. And then, we see the chair spot. They sit down in the chairs and they start slapping each other. I don't know what you guys think about that. I was kind of like, okay. I just thought it kind of was like a little bit of a speed bump. I don't know how effective it was for the actual story for this match. I don't know. Brandon, what'd you think of the whole, slapping each other back and forth?
The chair spot was, I forget what the sequence was. He hit the DDT's finisher and then go grab the table, go grab the chairs.
I can't remember if that was, well, that's the other thing too. He didn't make the pin. He should have went for a pin.
That's kind of the one thing I had the problem with, is the champion being kind of an idiot. But the chair spot, the slapping back and forth, I don't have much of an issue with it, because it is kind of like a Japan thing, and Moxley and Kenny having the New Japan roots. So it's something you see over in Japan a lot. So for me personally, who watches a lot of that stuff, I didn't have too much of a problem with it. But okay. I had more of a problem with kind of, if I do remember correctly, him not going for the obvious win just to kind of prove a point.
Yeah, when he hit the paradigm shift, so in AEW calls it paradigm shift, in New Japan he calls it the Death Rider.
Yeah,
right?
I wanted to call it the Dirty Deeds, but I know that's the one he doesn't use.
Yeah, actually, real quick. I mean, I know this is audio for people listening right now, but Tommy, you want to show the guys your impression of Kenny Omega? Do it! Come on, real quick! Dead air.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Sorry.
I think that's just their way of, them protecting his finisher.
Okay.
Which Okay, sure, that happened.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have at least put his foot on the rope. Something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you make the cover, put your foot on the rope. Oh, okay. Then you go get the chairs and you do the slap thing.
Yeah.
And then we get to the whole thing with Don Callis and the microphone, and he's busted open.
Yes. Well, I was just gonna say real quick. So after the chair spot, the slapping, that's when the match really started picking up, and kind of Brandon, as you said, kind of their New Japan tendencies start coming out and start getting a little more intense and more athleticism, the high spots hitting each other. I was like, all right, starting to pick up now. And so the spot at the very end, which I think was supposed to be part of the finish, a little bit of a botch here. So we see Kenny Omega standing on top of the ring corner, and John Moxley starts coming over, and I think he was supposed to push him, but it looks like Kenny slipped and he kind of just fell straight down onto the mat. And you could tell they were trying to call an audible. So Moxley jumps out of the ring and grabs him. And if you look at the video, it's obviously you could see him look down. And he's telling probably Kenny what he's calling the spot. And instead, as you said, he double arms him and suplexes him into the heater. So I think what was supposed to happen, I think Moxley was supposed to push Kenny Omega off the ropes. He was going to fall into the heater. And that's the thing. When the heater right there, at first I was kind of looking at it. It looks like a stereo. Remember, like a big, amplifier. I was looking at it. I was like, what is that thing? They finally said it's a heater. And I wish they would have said that early in the night, how cold it was. They have these heaters, spread out around the facility there. They didn't really do a good job with the detail there. And so, but obviously the heaters were set up right there to be part of the finish as far as, affecting.
Be the heaters.
Yeah, exactly. So Kenny Omega, goes into the heater. Moxley picks him up, throws him back in the ring. And then, Don Callis comes out and, he has the microphone. He's trying to say, oh, he's hurt. And then Moxley finally comes over and, slugs him, and he falls down, and it looks like all the roses or whatever petals was exploded out of him. And then, he nicely, throws the microphone into the ring, and, Omega grabs it, hits Moxley with it, busts him open. And so this is something I heard John LaRocca talk about, and I wanted to get your guys' take on this as well. Kenny Omega is supposed to be the cleaner 2.0, more or less, a heel. When you use a weapon like that, boom, he's busted open, go for the pin right away. Instead, he still goes through his babyface motion of arsenal. The V-trigger, a couple V-triggers, finally the one-wing angel, and then gets the victory. So even though he's a heel, he still used all his babyface moves to win the match. So kind of your thoughts on just how, from ring psychology, especially a guy like Kenny Omega is known for.
Well, we've seen Moxley kick out of worse than a microphone being, hitting his head. And if you really looked at Kenny's expression, the V triggers, they were more vicious. They were more sinister because he was really just nailing him on the jaw, the chin, and on that wounded spot of his head. Mm-hmm. Of course, the one-wing angel, nobody's ever kicked out of it. Of course, that's going to be the definite finish. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure that you're walking out of here the champion, which he did. Kenny Omega's your new AEW champion. And this is kind of what I have a problem with here.
Mm-hmm.
If Brandon wants to give his take on the V-triggers before I get into this.
I love when Kenny Omega starts spamming the V-triggers. I wish he I think he hit a little too many of them earlier on in the show or in the match. So maybe if he kind of, took that back a little bit and made him mean a little more at the end. But I don't have too much of a gripe about hitting the microphone and then doing the V-triggers and the one-wing angel, just because it does protect Moxley a little bit more than just boom, you go through a 25, 30-minute match and then just a random microphone shot knocks you out.
Yeah.
What do you guys say, Philip?
Yeah, so, they kind of run off. Now we know who Moxley was talking to all those weeks ago. Now we know. Remember he was in the parking lot and Alex Marvez was trying to interview him? Yeah, I'll talk to you soon. And then
Moxley was, or Kenny Omega?
No, Kenny. He was talking to somebody on the phone a number of weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, Kenny Omega. Yeah, sorry, you said Moxley. Yeah.
I'm sorry. And then Alex Marvez interviews him, and he's like, yeah. I'll talk to you soon. Anyway, my whole point is, why are we doing the screw job thing?
You really think it's a screw job, though?
No, it's not a screw job, but they're acting like it is. When it's been done to death. It's been done to death everywhere.
Yeah,
they screwed him. They screwed him on the title. We don't need to see that anymore. I really don't.
It's just your basic outside interference, but
every
outside interference is a form of a screw job because the person who loses has got screwed. So it's.
I guess this one is different because I guess the biggest news, they're going to be on Impact, which it's must watch now.
So Kenny Omega does get the victory. Don Callis pretty much picks him up. They run out, which I kind of enjoyed as far as the camera following them, and then you see everyone in the back going, "Oh, hey, what's going on here?" And like Kenny's like being dragged, and Don's like dragging him all the way out there. And then Alex Marvez, just perfect timing. He was right outside, standing there by the car.
What a reporter!
I know he anticipated them running out. So. And then everyone who saw it already knows what he said. So Alex Marvez is like, "Hey, what's going on here?" And he's Don Callis says, "We'll talk about it on Tuesday." I'm just paraphrasing. He's like, "Dynamite's on Wednesdays." He's like, "Impact Wrestling on Tuesday on Access TV." And they jump in the car and sped off. Same card that we saw at what was it, Full Gear? What's the previous? All Out. So when Kenny beat Hangman and left and try to get the Young Bucks to come help jump in the car with him. So Philip, and now it's starting to connect the dots as far as at All Out when Kenny tried to get the Young Bucks into the SUV with him on the phone. So Don Callis having a presence at Full Gear, calling the match against Kenny and Hangman Adam Page. So he very much has been like the master of puppets there, kind of controlling everything. And even following him on Twitter, he's like the invisible hand. He's like the one overseeing all this. So, it's official. And then Impact tweeted out or put it on Instagram a photo that Kenny Omega, Don Callis will appear on Impact this coming Tuesday. Talk about the whole thing. I'm curious if it's going to be. I know Impact Wrestling has filmed a bunch of episodes throughout the rest of the year, and I think even to early January. So I'm curious if this is going to be like a pre-tape thing. Maybe they did in the SUV, and they're just going to insert it into the episode of Impact this week, and they're just going to cut to it. Or are they going to film something special in the Impact Zone there maybe this week? I don't know. This coming week, I should say. It's going to be interesting. So a lot to break down here as far as this new partnership here. So before we get into that and maybe what could happen domino effect wise, what do you kind of just guess? Why is this whole partnership happening with Kenny and Don Callis? Why is Kenny going to go and appear on Impact kayfabe, of course, storyline wise? Why do you think Kenny and Don Callis, you think Kenny's mad at AEW in some ways for something and want to align himself with Don Callis? And he's going to be like his new manager. But what do you think what do you think Kenny's so mad about with AEW here? Philip, how about you?
Honestly, I don't know. I'm really intrigued to find out. I mean, is he just going to wrestle? Like, is he only going to defend the title there? I mean, because if you look at it, Moose is running around with the TNA title. I think Rich Swann is the Impact champion, and so look. We can't do on Impact what AEW's been doing, giving more airtime to another company's title. We can't be doing that, So I don't know what's going to be happening there. Is John Moxley going to make a run in and hit him with a paradigm shift? I don't know. Is he going to align himself with the Good Brothers? There's a Bullet Club connection there, and I mean, I want to say this. Kudos to AEW in 2020, New Japan, NWA. Impact Wrestling, and AAA. That's 5 promotions working together. I like that.
Brandon, do you have any idea, kayfabe-wise, why Don Callis and Kenny Omega are doing this against AEW right now?
For going strictly storyline, I think it's more just the link of Don Callis and Kenny Omega. I don't think it's really any deeper than that. I mean, kind of going more, beyond the curtain. I don't think it's a full-blown partnership, like it's going to be talent share and everything like that. Now, I would love to see a lot more Impact women's wrestlers on AEW's women's division, but because I just don't really see what AEW gets from being with Impact. I think it's more like they wanted Don Callis to be a part of the Kenny Omega partnership storyline, whatever. And Don was like, look, I'm with Impact. Give us throw us a bone here. Let us have this big kind of after whatever angle, and maybe we see him on Impact every now and then. But I would say for the most part, don't read too much into it. Say, we're getting a full blown faction warfare between AEW and Impact.
Yeah. So a couple things here. So also, by the way, when you said women's division, I completely forgot. Women's champion, AEW women's champion, Sheeta did make an appearance, one little backstage segment. She heard some sound effects. I guess it's Abaddon coming, and she was all scared. And it's like, come on, you're the women's champion. Be a little tougher. Come on. You should be like, oh, some noise. All right, I'll take them on. But anyway, that's a whole separate thing. We'll see how that Abaddon thing plays out. But, okay. So yeah, let's talk about it now officially as far as, real talk, as far as it looks like AEW, Impact Wrestling are working together. To the extent we don't know, I will admit I'm kind of glad we're recording tonight on a Saturday versus maybe earlier in the week, because some more news has come out in the last couple of days. I know the Young Bucks did an interview, I think, with Fightful, and they said they're just kind of testing the waters, just dipping their toes in it to kind of see how this plays out. I think Wrestle Inc. did a story that said that it looks like this might be like a one-time thing, a one-time appearance on Impact. So it's not, don't expect it to be a super long storyline here. So it looks like Kenny might appear on Impact. And the rumor is, Gallows and Anderson might appear the Good Brothers will appear for a match on Dynamite or AEW against the Young Bucks. And that might be it. But, hypothetically speaking, let's kind of look at the bigger picture. And, Philip, you brought up a good point as far as AEW. Obviously, made some sort of a connection or a relationship building with Impact Wrestling. They've been doing stuff with the NWA. They've had stuff with AAA. And is there any other promotions I'm missing right now? New Japan. I mean, a little bit crossover. People appearing on Jericho's 30th thing, and obviously Jericho and Moxley working over there. So it looks like some form of alliance is being built, if you want to call it that. Awesome. I get Philip, your initial thoughts of them all kind of working together in some capacity.
Hey, bro, Triple H said WWE's open to working with other companies if it benefits them. Maybe NXT jumps in this mix. We don't know.
MLW and NXT are going to put on a show.
Ooh, hey, throw MLW in there. I'm not opposed to that.
Yeah, man.
It's good for the wrestling business. It really is. You don't just have to watch one thing. I know people hate WWE and they're solely on AEW, and I know people think AEW is full of vanilla midgets and they're only rocking with the red and blue and gold for WWE. Look, we can all watch it. It's okay. Yeah. There's streaming, there's Roku, there's YouTube, there's everything. It's good for the wrestling business, Yeah. It's going to open a lot of people's eyes, and we're going to see some really cool matchups.
Yeah, so hypothetically speaking, if this is a little bit of a longer storyline, like let's say it goes on for a few months and there's some crossover, I don't know necessarily like maybe an invasion type thing, but crossover, as far as, maybe Kenny Omega goes over there. It would be kind of cool if Kenny Omega goes on a big winning streak and he becomes like a new belt collector. He wins the Impact title. He has the AEW title. He still has the Mega Championship in AAA. Maybe he goes to New Japan and gets something. Maybe he, challenges Nick Aldis, takes the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship from him. Like, how badass would it be Kenny Omega, who was like the most hot free agent WWE was going after, end of 2018, early 2019.
Still think he should have went there. It's just my personal opinion.
But like, what happens if he collects them all and takes like a new photo with just like all these belts? I mean, that's just fantasy booking. But
honestly, bro, if that would happen, I would tolerate him.
Really?
I would tolerate him. I'm not
so
saying
you'd only tolerate him if you just won everything.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'd be all goo goo gaga over him like everybody else has been over the last 3 years, but I'm like, okay, I see you. I see you're trying to do something.
So what I'm getting at also is it'll be interesting to see like how extensive this partnership is, as far as is there going to be some sort of talent sharing? Are we going to see some dream matches? Brandon, let me ask you this. Like, what do you kind of hope could happen between AEW and Impact as far as this partnership goes, depending, how long it is and whatnot, but what kind of some goals you would like to see accomplished here?
So I'm not the biggest Impact person in the world. I don't know too much, and I've been watching a lot of it. But as I said, I think the women's division is definitely something you would want to go after. I think that's really the only positive I could see from AEW standpoint, because AEW is so much bigger than Impact. Impact doesn't get too much viewership. And I think with AEW, they're trying to grow a fan base. And I just feel like everyone who's watching Impact, more often than not, is probably also watching AEW. So I just don't know exactly what they get out of it from here. Now, from a talent perspective, there's definitely some good talent on the men's and women's side of Impact that they could have some good matches, tag team matches, and everything like that. But it is a little interesting. As I said, I kind of feel like it's not going to be that big of a deal in terms of a crossover between the two promotions.
Yeah, it was interesting. So like that night, like people were tweeting back and forth. I think FTR tweeted something like the North, like, so it sounds like FTR wants to take on the North, and different possibilities of people on different shows taking on each other.
Jordan Grace had a mega thread of all the different dream matches she wants to see.
Oh, really? Oh, awesome. Gotta check that out. But
shout out on the thickness.
There you go. But I was just gonna say, like, hypothetically, regardless, Philip, as you said, if you only care about WWE or you only care about AEW, at the end of the day, it's great for pro wrestling. It's generating a buzz right now as far as it's getting people talking. And Brandon, you brought up as well, like, I think a lot of people who watch wrestling on a regular basis, they've been fans. They're just going to watch it. But in order for it to grow again and maybe get more popular like it once was in the late 90s, early 2000s, you got to create a buzz. You got to kind of get outside the box a little bit and get like more of those average fans that maybe don't watch on a regular basis. And this is one way you do it. This is a great way to kind of generate some water cooler talk and get people talking again. Be like, oh my God, you saw what happened? Like, AEW and Impact are going to be working together? Like, it gets people talking, and maybe the average fan will want to tune in again. So that's one thing I'm excited for as far as this partnership goes. Now, you guys brought up a good point as far as, okay, how does this really benefit AEW? I mean, they're ratings wise on a consistent basis between high 700 to low 900,000 range, more or less, for the last year, a couple times over 1 million. Impact Wrestling, I think last week they said average, I think it was like 166,000. So about 15% of what AEW's audience size is. So Impact's probably loving this deal because the exposure they're going to get. And I would love to see what the rating's going to be for this coming Tuesday, how many eyeballs are going to tune in. So they're loving this partnership. They're going to be the big winner. For AEW, what did they gain from this as far as, okay, let's say there's going to be some talent exchange and you get these matches going. AEW already has a full roster of people who don't get a lot of TV time. And now you're going to bring in Impact people who are going to eat up that TV time as well. So it's like, man, like all their AEW Dark is like 2.5 hours because they're just trying to give all the extra people on their roster some match time, some TV time or YouTube time. So I don't know. That's my one little concern. Like, I'm trying to look at it from both sides, the pros and cons of this partnership. So for Philip, for you, like, do you have any concerns about this partnership and maybe how kind of in a negative way might affect some things here?
Well, I know AEW was looking for like a show to put on TBS. Just buy Impact and put it there.
Yeah.
All your people that aren't getting airtime can go there.
Well, okay. How about this? I was thinking about this a little bit, and honestly, I've been thinking a lot about this whole partnership and how it could work out. And hypothetically speaking, like I just said, the roster is so big. They only have one show a week, 2 hours, and that's like all the major players that have these storylines, and not everyone gets screen time. Like, look at the Young Bucks; they didn't have any match this week. So, would be kind of interesting if maybe like someone who's signed to AEW but doesn't have a lot of TV time right now. What happens if like they take like a handful of their wrestlers, send them over to Impact, and let them work on Impact? So technically, they're like it's like a really like we would keep saying talent sharing, but this really is talent sharing as far as, okay, these people are signed to AEW, but they're not getting anything done. They're not getting any TV time. Go work on Impact. Do a program for like 3 months, 6 months. Work a bunch of matches there. Get more reps in. and then become more seasoned that way. And then when you come back, you kind of become back as a big deal even more. Or maybe do some stuff, some NWA type matches. Or if you're able to go over to Japan, do some New Japan stuff or stuff in Mexico, like outsource the lower mid card talent to other promotions and let them work there, develop new characters or better characters. Then when they come back, it kind of generates some more excitement for them. I don't know, Brandon, what do you kind of think of? Maybe that's a good way of like taking advantage of a partnership with all these different promotions.
Yeah, I think right now with no indies really being run, I think being able to outsource talent, if they're able to do that, I think that definitely seems like a good idea in theory. I know politically people don't want, some wrestlers to lose and everything like that, but kind of going back to the exposure aspect and maybe getting people talking, I think honestly Sting coming back is going to do a lot more for AEW getting some lapsed fans' eyeballs on the product than them teaming up with Impact.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I mean, look at me. I'm a 37-year-old man that watched Sting back in the 90s. I'm super excited to watch AEW even more. I mean, I already watch it every week, but imagine someone around my age who grew up watching WCW and be like, oh my God, like the guy I love back in the 90s is back on TNT. I'll give it a check out for the nostalgia appeal of it all.
Absolutely, man. If I could chime in with I went to Jordan Grace's Twitter, and some of these matches she has lined up, then I think they could work. You got Young Bucks versus the North. You got Serena Deep versus Deonna Purrazzo. Joey Janela versus Chris Bay. Ken Shamrock versus John Silver. Johnny Hungry. Yeah, I mean, Chris Statlander versus Taya Valkyrie. You got Nyla Rose versus Jessica Havoc, a Hoss fight. And then Darby Allin versus Suicide and Eddie Kingston versus Willie Mack. So, and Kenny Omega versus Josh Alexander. So, I mean, there are possibilities for great matches, but, as long as talent is used in the best way possible, that's the most important thing.
Well, the other thing, too, I was going to say with Impact is like, listen, Rich Swann, cool wrestler, but he's the current champion. And it's like, man, like, I hopefully this will kind of boost things. I mean, the X division's been really well. The tag team division's been really well. But man, their main event scene in Impact is, to me, kind of struggling. And, I was watching for a little bit again. I haven't watched it consistently in a long time, but, for 4 or 6 weeks build up to Slammiversary, that's when I started watching some more. And I was kind of enjoying it, but then after Slammiversary, I kind of fell off again because they started doing like Wrestle House and some of these really goofy storylines that kind of lost my interest. And I'm still trying to keep track of it week to week when I can. They do have a very talented young roster. I think kind of the issue with Impact Wrestling is, when they get like these good people and after a couple years, they did get a big following and they always leave. So Impact's always losing talent. I mean, the Rascals, 2/3 of them at least just signed with NXT. You look at Brian Cage, John Morrison, some of these big names from the last few years. I mean, Santana Ortiz, the Lucha Brothers, all of them have roots in Impact within the last few years, but then when they get big enough, they leave. So for Impact, I'd be curious to see if like AEW was able to like move some talent over there just to give them some more reps and help booster that roster. I'll be excited for Impact's sake as far as making the shows a little more entertaining, as far as some fresh faces and whatnot. I'm trying to look from the positive of how talent exchanges can really help one another. And I don't know, let me ask you guys this. Do you think WWE needs to be afraid of what's going on right now as far as with the competition? Phil?
I think we need to like really wait and see when everything's like really in motion to see if WWE needs to be worried at all. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. No, at the end of the day, look, they put on WrestleMania. No one can put on a show that big compared to them. I know Wrestle Kingdom is New Japan's form of WrestleMania, but
that's only 40,000. WrestleMania
exactly.
does like 75, 80,000.
Twice as much. Yeah, exactly.
And the whole thing with the Impact scene, I think the problem child, not Jake Paul, but TB. I think she should have stayed the Impact World Champion. Just my personal opinion.
Really?
Just my personal opinion. But we don't have time for that.
Brandon, how about you? Do you think WWE needs to be afraid of what's going on right now?
No, I think right now WWE is quote unquote too big to fail. So I think at this moment, they'll be fine. But I think we are kind of on the cusp of possibly a wrestling boom. Mm-hmm. So if AEW really catches fire, maybe once crowds come back, they have like a full blown year of crowds because that's really like what is the biggest positive I think with AEW is because their crowds are so into the product, and having that, and you sprinkle in Sting and some other people. Because I listened to an interview with Tony Khan, and he kind of teased that we've done big things, but we have some things in the works that will blow people's minds. And I think he was obviously hinting at Sting when he talked about that.
Yeah, I mean, also, going back to his tweet a couple weeks ago, like, oh, there's gonna be a shift in power. And a lot of people were like, what can it be? Is he overhyping it? And then Pac May's return, and they're like, that's it? And they started laughing. Then 2 weeks later, this all happens. Like, who has the last laugh now? So Tony Khan looks like a genius right now. So I'm excited for all that. I mean, hypothetically speaking, listen, we never got the blood and guts as far as matchup like AEW's version of War Games that they were trying to do earlier this year. Maybe they can do AEW versus Impact inside a War Games type of match for blood and guts if they want to try that next year at some point. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I'm trying to be positive and excited for all the different possible scenarios. But at the end of the day, it depends how long the actual relationship is going to last for. And who knows? Maybe it's like starts out kind of small, but they kind of extend it and they can work around it. And I think at the end of the day as well, that's how you think about wrestling in the 70s, 80s with the territories, people working together. And it's NWA, National Wrestling Alliance. Like, you got to kind of, I think you have your own roster for each respective promotion, but then you guys work together, put on shows and entertain the fans. That's all it's about, is entertain the fans. So I'm super excited for it and see what can happen. And, for us, it's going to be great stuff to talk about for weeks and hopefully months to come. So there's so much to break down and talk about even more. The other rumor too is like Don Callis, supposedly, I think his contract with Impact is up, I think in January. So who knows? Maybe he's using it as a bargaining chip to maybe get more money to stay with Impact. It's like, look, I brought you all this exposure by working with AEW, or who knows? Maybe he leaves and joins AEW full time and uses his mind there, and maybe can manage Kenny Omega some way. He tweeted out a photo of Bobby Heenan and Nick Bockwinkel. So maybe they want to be that version of that for this generation. I don't know. I mean, there's so much to talk about. We could spend all night talking about, but we'll save it for another time. But I really enjoyed this conversation. This is the one part I was really looking forward to, is just kind of like the after effects of this finish from this week's episode of Dynamite. So thank you guys for doing all of that. So, all right, let's go home now. Let's start with Brandon. We'll have Brandon have the honor. Brandon, where can all the Kliqsters find you online?
Well, if you want to follow me on the Twitter or the Instagram, it's Brandon Tanguma, B-R-A. It's right there on the screen, so I can spell my own name. BRANDONTANGUMA_. And I also do, along with the Bulletcast, I do another show, Curveballs and Chair Shots. We do sports and wrestling, curveballs and CS. Got to sneak it in there one time.
Nice. Actually, Philip, one of these days when we're allowed to kind of go back to like normal, viewing and hanging out and stuff, I should take Brandon over to KMBR, my sister station, the sports station. He probably dig all that with all your sports stuff I see there and stuff. You probably would dig, hearing some of the sports.
Philip's not the sports guy.
I know, exactly.
Hey, I used to play baseball. We had this discussion. I used to play baseball.
Yeah,
I was a
those are all my game balls, Philip.
Nice.
All I needed was one, baby. I'll go get it. All I needed was one.
Are those balls you got it at at the actual game, like foul balls or something?
No, these are my little league balls, because I'm a well-established little league legend.
Hey, no, it's okay. It's okay. I got these, bro. I won these for tossing dudes on their heads.
Hold on.
I won these. Hey, Kurt don't got medals like these. I don't care if he got Olympic gold. Getting me all hot and whatnot. Jesus. It's great audio content, by the way. You guys
absolutely.
You guys want to hear the clacking? You hear that?
I was going to get my one wrestling medal, but, I just have so many medals just all together. It's really hard for me to bring it out.
I got more. It's okay. I got more.
Oh, my God. Philip, where can all the Kliqsters find you online?
Jesus. Oh, my God. I'm all worked up. I'm like Flair. I'm ready to elbow drop my jacket.
Here's my soccer trophy. What is this? 2006 18th Annual Delta Invitational Under 14 Boys Divisional, first place.
Hey, you know what?
I only played for like 5 minutes, but it's still first place.
I played soccer, and I didn't get a medal, a trophy. So that one.
I played soccer for one season. It was 5th grade. My friend wanted me to play. I was just goalie. I was that bad. They just put me a goalie I just stood there for the whole season. That's
Brandon,
all I did.
that one cuts deep. That one hurts. For real.
I've been on bobbleheads.
It's okay. I've been a Bullet Cast champion. It don't matter. It
Were
don't
you
matter.
the first one?
Who's the current champion?
Oh my God! You both go throw that in my face.
I know, right? Come on,
I
man.
wasn't the first one. You're the current. That hurts.
Is
That
it on
really
the line
hurts.
tomorrow? Will it be?
Hell, it should be now.
War Games? War Games.
I'll let you hold it till the Rumble.
All right, extend it.
Follow me on the Twitter and the Instagram, Heel Antoine, HeelAntWine. You can follow the Bulletcast on Instagram, the Bulletcast on YouTube, Bulletcast on Twitter. I interviewed Brandon. Brandon. Yes, I actually like this Brandon. He's starting up GSW, Global Syndicate Wrestling in New York. The first show was in February. He's talking about a wrestling relief fund for the independent contractors of the sport. So that's really cool. I like what he's doing. Of course, I interviewed Latina Heat Shaw Guerrero. We chopped it up. Talked about her coming back into the business. I'm marked out about her dad. So that was really cool. Really, really fun conversation. One of the best ones I think I've ever done, truthfully. And of course, we had our 200th episode of the Bulletcast. Brandon was there. I was there. Cindy, she was there. Baby Huey was there. Bimbo Jimbo was there. Chris Van Vliet was there. It was a big extravaganza. Seriously, thank you, Huey, for coming on. That really means a lot to me, brother. Brandon, thank you for sticking by me for 200 episodes. Or 197, because only the ones you were on count. But
Now you're starting to get it.
Oh my God! Seriously, thank you. Thank you to everyone that shared it and liked it. It really means a lot, man. I'm ready for 200 more. I really am. Diamonds are forever. So is the microphone messiah. Good night, everybody.
Man, that's how I follow that. Man, I'm lost for words. No, we'll say this. Your Shaw Guerrero interview, I recommend everyone go watch it. Philip, I didn't have a chance to tell you this. I was like I said, before we started, I'll save it for the podcast. I really do think that's one of your best interviews of all time. So please, I encourage everyone to watch it. Just the amount of the different topics that you guys cover, as far as her personal life, her dad, her mom, her goals in wrestling, what she's done, her husband, other questions about wrestling. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. I was trying to watch it while I was at work, do work and listen to that at the same time.
The best one was the hot tub time machine question.
I think the Dark Side of the Ring question was a good one.
I didn't even ask a hot tub time machine question.
That's always my question, Philip, and you never ask it.
I asked it to Zicky Dice and Chris Van Vliet.
Wait, what's the hot tub question?
Oh, if you could go back in time to any show, what would it be and why? That's his question for every interview.
If you
it's specifically a hot tub time machine. You have to take a hot tub time machine to any wrestling moment in history. Which one are you going to?
Oh, man.
I'm like, so do you have any questions for this person? Hot tub time machine. I'm like, really? Nothing about their background? Nothing? That's
it's the gimmick. You just ask it every single time. You can compare questions.
I would go to either the very first WrestleMania or WrestleMania 3.
You know what I'd do? I'd go to WrestleMania 14 and jump in the ring and take that stunner for Sean. That's what I'd do.
Well, the Undertaker would come out and hit you.
Hey, Mark don't want none.
Undertaker did confirm on Stone Cold's podcast, or the Broken Skull session, the round 2, that he really was standing back there waiting if Sean did not do the job. Even though he told Sean otherwise, no, I was just kidding. It's not a lie. He said, no, it was true. He was standing back there ready to knock the crap out of Shawn Michaels, because you know how Shawn Michaels was back in the 90s.
He was a great guy.
So, no, but I was going to say, Shaw Guerrero, your interview there, I really enjoyed it. I encourage everyone to go watch it. It's awesome. And then also, yes, congrats, 200 episodes of the Bulletcast. I really enjoyed how you guys did the premiere thing. So I was trying to, honestly, at work, I tried to have it on while I was doing my other stuff. And so I realized when it's premiering, you just got to let it roll in real time. So I'm trying my best to watch it and, keep track of what's going on while still doing all my work. But I really enjoyed that episode, what I was able to try and know while working, trying to watch at the same time. But no, congrats on 200 episodes. Congrats to both you guys. All the hard work. I already said this in the episode, in the video itself, but for both you guys, as far as, your love for wrestling and doing this podcast for 200 episodes, it's very tough to do that on a consistent basis. The interviews you guys have gotten, the events you've covered, the local shows you've gone to, supporting the local scene. That's huge. But it was a lot of fun. The way I enjoyed you guys, the way you did like talk about yourselves and jump to the interview, back to you guys, back to the interview. Philip, I really enjoyed you staying consistent with the wardrobe.
Hey, dude, that was not planned. I did not plan that at all. It was just on my chair. I'm like, is this clean? Okay, I'll put it on. I broke out the NWO jacket for Chris Van Vliet, though.
That was the one thing, because I know when you guys were talking, and then you cut to like Jimbo or me, you had still had your blue hoodie on. I was like, oh, he probably did that to keep it consistent. I was like, good.
No, it was a happy accident, brother.
Kayfabe, that was all planned.
Man. And then when the Chris Van Vliet one happened, you had a different jacket. I'm like, oh, you broke it. Damn it.
He's won 4 Emmys. I had to dress up.
There you go. That's good. No, but seriously, the 200 episode I thought was really great. Just everything you guys talked about and cover and everyone who appeared there. It was a really fun episode. I think it really does just sum up what you guys have been doing, what the show means to you guys and for everyone else. So awesome stuff. Like I said, congrats once again. But yeah, I'm Baby Huey. Follow me on Facebook at Baby Huey Official, Twitter and Instagram at Baby Huey83. And like I said, top of the show, subscribe, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, inthekliq@gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the YouTube. I'm in the process of updating our YouTube page once again soon. And let's go home because that's the bottom line, because Huey said so.